All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Afterthought. I am your host, Marshall, and today we have a special guest to help have some afterthoughts about a movie from 1960. It's called Psycho, the legendary Psycho, and I have here Ricky from the radio station back at CCSU, back in my school. So, Ricky, welcome to the show.
Yeah, real throwback to our days at the radio station. 107.7 The Edge, of course.
I know. Now you're still there, right?
No, because I graduated last year.
Okay.
Yeah, so and with COVID and the pandemic, they've been really limited when it comes to outside of campus interaction. They haven't really. I don't even think they've had any community volunteers over the last year. That's other than Gil, who is our faculty advisor over there.
Yeah, I keep hearing that they just kind of cut it all up because of, restrictions and COVID, and it's just a mess.
Yeah, no, it's complicated. Like, how else can you really do it efficiently outside of the studio? But I've been working on my own podcast, though, actually.
I know. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so me and my buddy have been producing a satirical news podcast called The Last Minute with Dustin Wong. Okay. It's about a 30 to 45 minute podcast. We release one episode a month. It's completely scripted. It's an entire program that consists with sketches, with headline jokes, satirical coverage of the news, fake PSAs and commercials, fake correspondent sections. It's an entire it's a comedy podcast, and I've actually been really, really happy with the last 3 episodes that's come out. I think we found a really nice foundation for it, but then we're already breaking out of form as well with it. You can catch us on just about any one of the any sort of podcast platform that you go on. Mm-hmm. I would really appreciate anybody to be able to check it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna click subscribe on that because I've been getting into a lot of scripted podcasting now, and I'm loving these horror stories and just all of these shows that is completely different than what I'm used to. I usually listen to the pop news and the what's on the news, and
a lot of podcasts are very conversational. So I wanted to be able to try to push the envelope a little bit. I'm definitely not the first person to be doing this. Our entire show's format is recycled from the last 60 years of just general talk news, sort of format.
Well,
I really like your podcast.
Thank you.
I like that yours is both conversational and has a specific motive, which is you watch a movie for the first time and you want to put your take on it. And I really like how kind of all over the place in the best way your selections have been for the last few episodes. You have Moonlight, you have Moonlight that you started off with, and then you go to The Devil Wears Prada, which was the one that you did last time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every time I see, and then when you hit me up, I'm like, you said, how about Psycho? I'm like, whoa, all right. I love that. All right.
I'm on my horror kick right now.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So, I mean, it's all over the place, and I'm happy that you came on to do this horror movie. I didn't know how you would feel about it, but I was like, I think this is going to be interesting. I never saw it before. Have you ever saw this movie?
I saw this movie once, my senior year of high school. So it's been a long time ago. Yeah, very long time. So that's why it was really interesting for me to revisit it, because as we're probably going to talk about, there's a lot of assumptions that I had with the movie going in that was totally subverted once I watched it.
Yeah, how do you feel watching it now? I mean, what came up? What the first things that came up?
I was reminded, when I watched this movie, I actually want to ask you a question, if you don't mind. What was your idea of this movie going in? Did you know what it was about? Did you know any specific things that happened?
Yeah.
And how did that affect your viewing?
Yeah. So unfortunately, the shower scene, the whole movie was summarized to me through YouTube clips on the best moments of movies, and people would tell me the movie. So it's like Shakespeare. I already knew kind of what was going to happen before I watched it. So I feel like that's what kind of killed the movie for me, unfortunately, because everything that happened in this movie was so clever. And I feel like me knowing it just killed it. I knew what was going on behind the curtain. and but it was still good. I think watching this movie, I still thought it was pretty good. I just knew that the guy was dressed up as a woman.
Yeah.
Went to try to kill her.
So, absolutely. I think, everyone knows about the Bates Motel. The shower, the shower sequence is obviously one of the most iconic in film history.
Yeah.
I was also, back in the day, spoiled to say, it's hard to say a spoiler for a movie that was out for 50 years, but spoiler about, the ending that he was his mother. But what really surprised me and what really put me on a loop was I figured that with the spoilers that I had, that this movie was solely just about this killer that at the Bates Motel, but there is so much more. There's so much more around it and so many more characters and way deeper. There's a way deeper narrative that revolved just around what's his name? Norman Bates. And that's what I was actually going to talk about, which I really like about the movie. This movie is I think of it as two completely separate narratives. The entire half hour of expedition we had revolved nothing around Norman Bates. It was around Crane. What's her last name? Myron Crane or Marion Crane.
Marion Crane. Yep.
Yeah, Marion Crane, who is the secretary or the front desk of this business, who ended up running off stealing $40,000 to
when I saw this
lover.
I was like, what I thought this movie was supposed to be about horror and everything, and I was like, okay,
took you for a total loop, right?
I was like, what is going on? Well, actually, in the beginning of the movie, I actually was like, okay, Busta Rhymes totally sampled the theme song, the and the Give Me Some More song. I was like, wait a minute, mine explosion.
I love those moments, man. I love hearing originals. Just separate from this, I love hearing originals from samples that become way more iconic and way more famous. Listening to Daft Punk's Stronger sample in their actual song when I heard Kanye West's way before that.
Yeah, it's weird when you hear things out of perspective like that and you get your own take on it. That's why I love watching older movies. Our generation will take it and pick it apart in different ways, and some movies actually got better over the years, and some movies actually kind of stinky over the years, which I think unfortunately this one, it kind of lost its flair because it just, people ruined the hell out of it for me.
I see.
And this was revolutionary. I mean, there were so many parts of this movie were never seen before. I mean, this was controversial when it first came around.
100%.
Now it's like child's play, I mean, I saw this movie and I was like, where's the guts and the blood and the nudity like everybody always puts in their movie? And it was very pulled back. And
but that's the thing, man. That was pushing the envelope in 1960. That was hard, because I could definitely get how things you learn, especially coming to our age, if we try to revisit movies or material that we watched as kids, things do not age well. But I guess I wouldn't call this something that doesn't age well, because you can't help that media and just art is going to evolve. What we deem as acceptable is going to evolve, because the reality is that sequence, the main actress, she said that she cried when she watched herself getting stabbed in the shower, because you just didn't really see blunt murder like the way they did in that movie. Even the nudity at the time, which, you always saw, if she was a full profile, she had a bra on and whatnot. Yeah. But just the implication of her being filmed naked when she went in the shower was very controversial.
Oh yeah, they had I think they had a Playboy model or a porn star play her as her body double when there was the scenes where she was showing a lot of body.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I heard that, I guess when she watched the movie, she was kind of taken by it, because she was like, a woman is so vulnerable, just showering. So I heard from the day to her end of her days, she took baths. Which I would feel more vulnerable taking a bath, sitting there in a tub of water.
Yeah. It's a lot longer amount of time.
Yeah, get a clear shower curtain. Maybe that helps. Always keep an eye out, because I do the same thing. Whenever I'm washing my hair or closing my eyes, I always freak out and want to open my eyes, because I mean, you're so vulnerable.
Oh yeah, I used to be really I used to be very paranoid about being in the shower when I was like a kid,
Oh
because
yeah.
there was one horror movie that came out, and there's just this moment. It had to do with you have like your demons living in a mirror, and if you look in the
Mm-hmm.
mirror, like they take your form and they could do stuff. And so ever since I saw that trailer, I would just always I'd dodge the mirror. I'd look over the curtain, be like, "Oh, I gotcha." Like I feel like I'm outwitting whoever's going to bring in my inevitable death.
Yeah.
Like I
Well,
think I'm gonna outsmart him, right?
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
When he opened up her room and went to go into the room, did you find it awkward that he wanted to open the window? And would you have closed that window?
I honestly, I wouldn't pay too much. I probably wouldn't have paid too much mind to it
Oh
because
no,
I'm a
you're gonna
pretty passive
die.
guy. I know. Like I'm not saying I'm surviving any horror movie in any way, but when he opened it up, because it seemed like, to put into context, it's a pretty deserted motel, and he says it's pretty stuffy in here. So let's open up a window, get some
Yeah.
clear air.
See, that's what
So
would
I
scare the
probably would
shit
have just
out of
been
me.
like, oh, I just would have been like, oh, you're right, and went past it.
No, no.
I wouldn't have kept it open. I would not have kept it open, especially when he left. Hey, if he was still in
Yes.
there, keep it open. I can jump out easier. Come on.
Yep. The first thing I would do, and I always do this, bathrooms or hotels, I check for the cameras, if there's any cameras anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
the cleanliness of it, and I'm checking, okay, you want to open up my window? We're going to lock that window. We're going to make sure it's locked. We're going to check the door to the other hotel room and make sure that's secure. I don't want to play with any of that. I'm not
That's
trying to die first in a movie.
yeah. No.
Might die like third.
Yeah. I
Also,
ain't surviving. I'm telling you that much.
yeah. Also, did you find her driving scenes kind of hilarious? Because I was cracking up at them. Movies from back in the past, they love a good facial expression. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I guess they were telling her as she was driving what she was supposed to be reacting to, because
Mm-hmm.
they obviously do the green screen and the fake background while they're driving. I just find it so funny back in the 60s and 70s when they make these faces, oh, of drama. Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
acting. And
Yeah.
it's just funny to me. I
The
mean, that
camera
part,
didn't do her the service of
yeah.
being on it for 3 consecutive minutes at a time. So
Yeah.
you're gonna get got. The camera never lies.
Yeah. But other than that, I mean, nothing really got me. Like I said, I kind of already knew about the movie before, so I don't know. Was there any other like kind of thoughts you had during the film?
I had plenty.
Oh, really?
I think, well, like, because the thing with that is I was kind of alluding to it in the beginning of our conversation, which is it's I think it feels like two entirely separate movies. It's
Yeah.
probably one of the greatest mood shifts I've seen in a movie. That's I can only really relate it to Parasite. Watching Parasite, when in
Okay.
the midpoint of the movie, the entire mood changes. Like
Okay. I
the
never
first
saw it, and I need
Yeah,
to
no, I'm
watch
not gonna talk
Parasite.
about it.
Okay, don't
I
spoil.
gotta talk about it. I was gonna move on just by the
Now I
fact
gotta
that
watch it though, because I hear it
because
too much.
like the protagonist, it's hard to even label truly who the protagonist is,
Yeah.
because it is Norman, and I can get into that. But the first act of the entire movie doesn't even revolve around its its supposedly main character. It's following this entire narrative about this woman who's steals $40,000 to run off, with her, like, with her new lover.
Mhm.
And you find these characters along the way, and the main objective of that story is having her escape, scot free with the money. Um,
Mhm.
and then and so, like, she's motivating the whole plot for the first half of the movie, and then you go off and kill your leading lady
Right, right
in the
there.
midpoint, and then the whole second half of the movie is completely different
Like,
now.
what the hell's going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love that. It keeps you guessing. That's the one thing about his movies, Alfred's movies, that I appreciate, is they just keep you guessing and they're different. And there's always, every couple of decades, there's always that one director that always just takes it to that next level. And you're like,
Mhm.
what in the world? Like, I thought it was going to happen this way, and I'm completely thrown off the track. I live
Yeah.
for that. Live for
Like,
that.
a great thing that Alfred Hitchcock does, and he does in this movie, is reveal you information but leave you with a question.
Yes.
So, like, a good example of that is in the second half of the movie, with when the boyfriend and her sister are talking to the police chief or the police officer
Mm-hmm.
trying to report about everything that's going on. They reveal in that conversation, but Norman's mother has been dead for 10 years. So if that's the case, then whose body was buried at the cemetery? Because if that was worded as such a who's the woman, that probably would have given a lot more of like foreshadowing on the nose of this person isn't real.
Yeah.
But they kind of transformed it as this is a deranged situation with a deranged like character. However, I'm going to lead you down the wrong thought process of what's going on in the future. I think it was great. It was a great conversation that moved the story forward and is not going to make you pretend that you're just not in the know the whole time, but leads you to another direction. I really like that a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, there are some things that I've heard about this film also that kind of blew my mind. Now, there was an early thing that people would tell me about this movie, especially with the shower scene. Shower scene was so many integral parts in that scene. But one of the things that always got me was the blood that they used in this movie was chocolate syrup.
Really?
It was Bosco's chocolate syrup. And I always thought that was fake, and somebody just told it to me to make me believe it. But even when I saw it in the movie, I was like, I don't know. But it really was chocolate syrup.
That's so funny.
Isn't that interesting?
Even fake blood, like I've filmed some stuff and I've had to make my own fake blood.
Mm-hmm.
But all you really need is corn syrup, flour, and food dye.
Really?
Yeah, like, it's always been like fake blood has always just come out of the weirdest, simplest grocery store items. So I'm not surprised, but it's just funny to think that there's just chocolate syrup all over like the bathroom and whatnot.
Yeah, because in some movies, I mean, I remember I would watch like old black exploitation movies from like the 70s, and the blood kind of came off as like Alfredo sauce. It was very orangey and
like a really thick
soupy texture, and I always was confused by that. I mean, I've seen some weird blood in some movies, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But chocolate syrup, who knew? Or corn syrup, like sometimes you just got to think it easy, and you want it to be something that you can eat, because let's be real, blood is always all over these characters.
It's all over these people, and like
over.
You want it to be edible, because if it's not, then that's just going to be a potential health issue.
Yeah, but although I don't want to smell like chocolate while I'm filming a horror scene, because chocolate has a bad after smell, in my opinion.
That is a very interesting take, and I don't have a great sense of smell, so I'm gonna have to take your word for it.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Do you? I don't know if you were going to follow this up, but do you know how long it took them to film that sequence?
So I wrote it down. I heard it was like multiple shots in like a week,
7 days, over 52 shots that they used.
Yeah.
At least crazy.
Mm-hmm. And I have no patience for that. See, that's probably why I film wasn't the best thing for me back in high school, because I love to put together a story, but some scenes take time, and you don't think it does, but every part matters. And they really took that scene and blew it up into this big thing. It was beautiful.
So beautiful. I will ask you, for this being one of the most iconic scenes in thriller history, if not in movie history, does it hold up to you?
I'm gonna say no. But I think if I was listening to it, two things: if I didn't know what was gonna happen, okay, and two, and if I probably listened to it louder, on a bigger screen. I mean, my TV in my room is pretty good, but I was also like listening to it late at night, and I didn't want to disturb the neighbors or whatever. If that was like full surround sound in my ears, that probably would have been so much better. I respect what they did, because it was beautiful.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's a level of respect, and you have to pay homage to the predecessors of the past. But it's one of those things, like I mentioned, it might have not aged well, but I wouldn't say it didn't age well, but it doesn't hold up to today's standard. Today we're used to such crazy effect and crazy actions that are put on scene. Now it's not even the point. It's like, we're such a deranged friggin' audience now. It's like they just got killed, whatever, like how did it happen? We have to look for the creative ways how that kind of thing would occur.
Yeah. And the knife scene, I guess that was like they filmed it where the knife was on her on her abdomen, and then they pull from her, and then they
Yeah.
play it in reverse. Like, that's crazy. Like, I see, don't get me wrong, I feel like I'm hating.
No.
I loved it. I just think, did it scare me? Did I get worried when I took a shower that night? Absolutely not.
It was a thriller, though. It was suspense.
Oh, yeah.
It had a lot of suspense to it.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
especially if you didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna something that I wanted to mention about the movie and its characters that I really liked, and I want to see if you noticed. I feel that none of the characters in that movie were fit or confident to be in the position that they were put in. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, it kind of throws them off their game.
Yeah. I mean, like, so every time, you know, like, for example, the leading lady, Marion Crane. So she, you know, when she was not fit to steal the money, like, because she stole the money and ran off. But for every person and encounter that she had, she was incredibly suspicious. Like, she just did not really know how to conceal herself. She didn't really know how to be able to talk herself out of a situation. You know, with the cop that pulled her over, I laughed when she goes, "Oh no," and tried to drive off immediately when the cop pulled her over. I know.
Triggered. Like, you don't.
That entire sequence was so funny to me. And the fact that the moment he walked away, she just went right off made me laugh. The fact that when she went to the car dealership, she was also incredibly suspicious. You know, the car dealer knew that something was up. She's only paying in cash, and she wants this car with no questions asked. Everybody didn't trust her. Norman Bates, when he was being interrogated by the private investigator, he totally fell under the cracks. He could not handle himself to the questioning, and he just kept switching his story. The sister and the boyfriend, when they tried to kind of uncover this scheme with Norman Bates, they came in with a plan, and they were doing good with their plan. But the moment that the boyfriend was alone with Bates, he was trying to be like, I'm going to sweet talk him and distract him. And it just turned into an entire interrogation. Like, he was, you know, he was just like, so, you know, if you had, if you had money, I bet you would run away, right? You know what? I think you do have the money. I think you have the money right now. Where are you hiding that money, Norman Bates? Like, it was so clear what his intentions were in that moment. It's just, all of these characters were put under these big, high stakes situations. And it's not like the typical movie where these people are good liars and they're sleuthy and they, you know, can talk their way out of a situation. All these players just did not know how to be able to take the pressure. And I really like that because it's a lot more realistic to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, you know, even when he was picking his characters, for example, Norman Bates, he didn't want to have, you know, the creepy looking guy, which I guess in the book, he was supposed to be short and fat and kind of creepy and old. They made him a young, like, boy next door. You know, it was very much like that throughout the whole movie. It was just making these characters relatable, making their clothes relatable, making them feel like this is somebody I know. I can trust this person.
The acting all around was spot on.
Oh,
it was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. That even translated to me now. And I appreciated that. I mean,
especially Anthony Perkins.
Who?
Anthony Perkins, who played Norman Bates.
Oh, yeah.
He killed it. He kills it from the last moment, from the last shot of him smiling menacingly in the camera. That shot will never die. That will never die.
And, you know, I think he was typecasted for that. Him and a lot of people from this film, like, they couldn't get away from this. They were I mean, when you're so good at a movie like that and a movie that big, you will always be known for that. I mean, there's no way you can get out of that. You know, that's like, what's his name in, the cannibal from
Hannibal Lecter?
Hannibal Lecter.
Anthony Hopkins?
Yeah, I can't see that man just in a comedy. Absolutely not. Absolutely.
I didn't want to laugh too hard and ruin the audio, but that was such a funny thought. Like, because I was about to say, I've seen Anthony Hopkins in plenty of stuff because he's a great actor, but then you said, I can't see him in a comedy. And I think that's so funny. I have to look into it, see if he's been in any comedies. Yeah.
Wait, was he, I'm watching Westworld right now. He's in Westworld, right?
Yes.
Okay, yes. That is him. Okay, because I was like, wait a minute, is that I'm going to eat your kidneys? or eat
Oh,
your
is that I'm gonna eat your kidneys? He said.
And it was, and I'm like, oh, of course, because I mean that's a perfect role for him. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but I'm
Oh no,
watching
he's
Westworld. It's
fantastic.
pretty lit. Yeah,
Westworld, especially season 1, is off the charts.
lit. I
Now
can
you
only
got to watch the
imagine.
movie.
There's a movie.
That's what it's based off of, my friend. There is an old like movie from the 70s or 80s, and that was the source material for this series.
Oh shit. Damn.
Yeah, dude. Now you got to do like a combo episode, which is watching the movie and finishing the series, and then seeing how they compare.
You know what? Okay, I might just do that. Damn, I thought it was just a TV show, and I'm like, wow, this is great. Like this is like The Matrix. There they go, having a whole movie about it.
Yeah.
And you know, like that's the thing. As I'm watching these movies, I'm realizing these were all books. Some of these were movies that had other movies included to them. Like this movie was had like multiple movies made of Psycho. Like Psycho wasn't just a one and done. Like they kept trying to milk this cow. And I'm like, wait a minute, I have to watch these movies now. I'm sure they're not as good.
And I must say, the book for Psycho came out the year before the movie was made. So Alfred Hitchcock literally read this movie and immediately was like, let's get to work. This is my next shot. This is my next gig.
Bought the rights to it and everything. Try to hide it and make it his own. He did a good job. He had a vision. But and this was his first horror film. Am I correct? I think. I don't want to say.
I don't want to say yes or no, because it's also like, probably I think this is kind of early in his career, and you can kind of classify the rest of them as dramas or thrillers, which isn't quite a horror movie. But I think this is definitely like a major horror movie in it, in his beginning, his just his career. I also don't know if his television series that he produced was before this movie or after this movie.
It might have been after, because I think he used to do a lot of big movies, right? And I think this was a movie that he wanted to kind of go rogue with and kind of rebel against the big budget, big star movies, and it worked. And I think that's what because Birds came after this, and that was in color.
Yeah, he had some. Yeah, Birds came after that. He had big movies before Psycho. He had Rear Window, which is one of his best. He had Vertigo, which also came out before then. He was established. He was clearly an established filmmaker before before this film. I have a thought that I wanted to share with you.
Go for it, and then we'll move on to the Would You Rathers.
All right. I think this will be a good final one then. The only thing that I might have changed or altered about this movie, or at least my real only big criticism, I think the movie could have replaced the private investigator with the cop from the beginning.
Yes. Now, why though? I want to hear what you think.
So, it's because when you think about it, besides the boyfriend, none of the characters from the first half had any reference or came out in the second half of the movie. So it really was, that's what makes it even more isolated than it was, is that none of the characters reoccurred. Every single character left the movie by the time Norman Bates sort of, picked up the second half. And so they just introduced all of these new players into this mix. And I think, and with the private investigator, like there's certain things that I kind of question with like his actions. Like if the private investigator was hired by the big money guy, why is he going off calling the sister and the boyfriend about the investigation and letting them know what's going on when his real motive is to, get paid by the end of the day and be able to bring the money back. But I think, and then just like him sort of, walking in, investigating and just walking right into the house with, no motive or sort of excuse whatsoever. I think the cop would have been really good tying into the rest, because the cop was in the beginning what was kind of keeping us on our toes. Like when I was watching him when he originally, pulled over Crane and originally sort of started surveillancing her behavior and followed her to like the auto body shop. I thought, oh, this is going to be the guy that's going to keep an eye on her, and he's going to see that she goes to Bates Motel. Like, he's going to be the one trying to put the puzzle pieces together. But then he just up and leaves.
It's gone.
Is gone by the rest
And
of the
I'm
movie.
like, what?
And,
what the hell?
And he already kind of established himself as like a rogue cop. They made it pretty clear in the movie because little did you know, Alfred Hitchcock really has a dislike for the police, and he expresses it in the movie when they said, we're not going to get the police involved because we want to give Marion a chance to like give the money back. We don't want them to complicate things. But this guy was kind of like already sort of on his own path. And it would have been cool if he was like doing this on his own time and kind of was like a sort of a rogue cop trying to figure out this case. So I think it just, the necessity of making a second character when you already have one that was being set up to be like the
That
eyes
guy.
and ears
Yeah.
of this woman's journey, I think it would have made things a little bit more cohesive.
Yeah, and it would have the killing of the investigator would have been more interesting because it just kind of felt like, okay, this is another character that just randomly comes up in this. Okay, I guess it makes sense. That's how he gets involved. I'm like, but it could have been the cop. Could have been the cop.
Could have been the
I would have
cop.
been okay with that. It would have been a built-up character, but yeah, that's interesting that you picked that up because there was a point in the movie where I was like, okay, all right, yeah, I'll buy it. Yeah, but where's the cop?
Yeah.
The cop was sitting there at the car dealership like, this girl is so guilty. This girl is so guilty.
It was so talking about things that made me laugh.
Her.
Both of those interactions made me laugh so much. How shady she clearly was. Like, and then she just uprights and leaves. Like, he pulls into the shop and then she just drives away with her car, which she only got to be able to try to lose his trail.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what your new car looks like now. You know that.
Well, I don't know. I think it was a good movie. I think there was some parts that we obviously could change. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, as you watch things, I watch it a month later and I could probably want to change it into a whole nother movie. I think overall it was good. I think
I liked it a lot. I think it's tight. I think I think all around the story was pretty tight. Even the things that would kind of poke those holes, they did rather explain in a way or kept it. I like how in the end, even for 1960, Alfred Hitchcock made it a point to not make this a narrative about, quote, transvestites or
because they wanted it.
Yeah, because they really could have. Specifically, they put in the movie, it's like, oh, this man is a transvestite, and the psychologist says that's not true. These are two different folks, two different strokes. That's completely different. And because especially back then, with a movie that would have been that popular, that could have generated, probably did in some ways, but at least he tried to subvert the accountability or hate that could have just stirred the pot even more for the community.
Oh yeah. I mean, it make people into seeming. I mean, that's the same thing they did with gay people. I mean, gay people, they made it seem like, we're going to take your kids and run away and do crazy stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not the narrative. What is going on? Like, let's not do that. Major things that break through. Unfortunately, they always have little scenes in them. It's like, oh, I wish that wasn't there. For something that was so high end, because it's gonna make people feel like, this is how it is.
It's gonna stir up,
it's gonna stir up controversy and stir the pot. Just a mess. And this is one of those movies, I guess. He wanted people to watch from the beginning to the end. I mean, he's very particular about how he wanted this movie to be watched, which I enjoyed. I mean, with that, and then having people not jump into the movie theater last minute to catch it, because a lot of movies were like that. You just walk in and see a movie running. This was kind of the beginning of, if the movie started, lock the doors, don't let people come in and ruin the movie or come in and watch the movie half-assed. They wanted people to watch the movie from the beginning to the end because he wanted that narrative to come across. He wanted his story to come across the way he envisioned it. And I love that. I mean, because it's like watching a movie on an iPhone and then watching it in a big screen. You're going to get two different movies.
I was about to say, it's
two different movies.
Two different experiences all around.
Oh yeah. So I appreciate that. Now, for the would you rather's though, do you have one? I have one. I think I said one earlier about the window, and I didn't realize that was one. So, oops. But I have one. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm so ready.
Okay. Would you rather eat Norman sandwiches or find food somewhere else, even if it's going to be a lot of trouble, or you might not even eat? Because he offered her sandwiches. Am I correct?
Yes, that's exactly what he offered.
And that was his sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what would you do? Would you eat his sandwich, or would you
well,
eat your money?
This would be a big difference if depending on if it was still raining, because that rain gave me anxiety. Just seeing her drive. Oh yeah, seeing her drive when it was just a downpour. My car is terrible in the rain, so I'm like, pull over. I would hate to drive there. So I would say, what's up?
No, I said, so you're not eating that night.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 100%. So actually what I would do, especially because the weather cleared up, in that, just with that circumstance, I'd take the sandwiches. Because even with that, I would still have the opportunity. If they weren't good, I fake my way through it, and I could just drive right off to get more food. I think that would be the case, but I think you're on the angle of not trusting it.
Yeah, I'm not trusting. You're dead on the floor. Yeah, with your window. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it. I could not do it.
I also feel like maybe with hearing the arguments that were going on, like that she was cussing him out for it, I think that would have been so awkward. I would have shut it down right there, to be honest with you. I would have been like, all right, no, it's fine. It's fine. Because that would make me afraid. I'm like, what if this chick is going to retaliate for me, like, doing that? So I think, especially with the argument, I'd be like, no, I'm good. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Close my door, lock it, and then automatically not even sleep and just find my way to my next location.
Yeah. Well, that was mine. What about you? Because that was the only one I could think of.
I joked around with this with you about this for an idea of would you rather. It's like, would you rather be a thief or a murderer? Because both of the protagonists that were in this, that we felt sympathy for in this movie, was someone who stole 40 grand from the start, and then someone who straight up kills people. But we are invested in them the whole way. So I guess you could answer that if you want.
I'll answer that in this movie universe, because I feel like in real life, obviously, we all have one answer. Because then if you had the other one, I'm gonna call the cops. But in this movie universe, I'd still rather be the thief. Rather be the thief. I mean, come on, because back in those days, you could get away with a lot because there's no internet.
Yeah, I was about to say, without the surveillance state, without the internet, it's all just a paper trail.
Yeah.
Like, how did anything get solved ever back then? So yeah, I would, especially if you're willing to just drive off to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, like, and nobody's gonna find me. Now, if I killed somebody, it's my moral code, my conscience is gonna get to me. I mean, that will ruin my life. I could never get over that. And that's some next level stuff. But I could steal money in the 60s and not feel some type of way about it. And I wouldn't do that today.
That's why I proposed this question as a joke, because there's really one answer here, or the other one is completely questionable.
Are you going to be the killer?
I will not be the killer. Not today. I will not choose violence today, but I will be the thief and run off to the middle of nowhere with my 40 grand, which
you and me
back then is the equivalent to way more than that.
We'll split the money, you and me, and we'll rob the guy, and we'll never be seen again.
We'll talk more after the Zoom call.
We'll talk more after, exactly. So overall, out of 4 stars, what would you rate this movie? 4 being the best, 1 being the worst.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5.
Oh, we're giving 0.5s. Okay, reasoning.
I'm gonna give it a 3.5. Because overall, I think the movie is solid. I think the narrative, the narrative shift is something that I really enjoy, and how there's so much more story around this already complicated and enticing sort of murderer. The shots, just like how it was filmed, was very smooth. The camera work, there's a lot of camera work going on in there. The acting was great to me. but it's it's not going to be perfect, and especially with a movie that's that kind of thriller, there's only to an audience member from today, there's so much more that can like get me to jump off my seat, I guess.
Yeah.
That and its historical relevance is something that needs to be taken account of.
Yeah, without this movie, there would be all my favorite horror films would never exist, and I think that's why I also give it I would give it a 3, a solid 3. I wanted to give it a 2 as I was watching it, because I think for this podcast, I want to just rate it the way I see it, and I think there were certain parts that did kind of lose my interest, but I think I'm going to blame it on my TV and the sound being low because I didn't want to wake up anybody. I really, overall, thinking about it now, it is a 3-star out of 4 for me. I mean, it holds up. It holds up, and it is interesting. It's like reading a good book. You just don't want to put it down. I did still want to know how this all kind of played out, even though I knew the ending. Yeah. It just caught me. And I'm normally not into black and white movies. So the fact that this movie got me to the end, I was like, you know what? Kudos. And I'm surprised I didn't watch the movie in color, because they made it in color, right?
I heard. I did hear about that.
I want to see that chocolate scene in color.
Oh, they definitely would have. I would hope that the chocolate had some sort of food dye in it, unless they really just was like, it's black and white, who cares, and just threw out.
Yeah. But also, by the way, for the viewers, so somebody told me that I didn't rate The Devil Wears Prada. I will get Robin's response to that. I rated it, I think it was a 3 out of 4 as well. I was like shook. Somebody told me that. I was like, what? I didn't rate it? So I'm guessing Robin would probably rate it a 4 out of 4. I would rate it a 3 out of 4, but I'm going to ask her and get back to y'all. I just had to put that in there because I guess I didn't do it. So
what's the highest rating you've given so far?
A 4 out of 4, and that was for the first movie, Death Proof. Death Proof is my all-time favorite movie of life, and I feel like that for me is a 4-star movie for me, because I feel like that's my little twisted fantasy of a movie. I don't know.
That's cool, because that's a Tarantino flick that a lot of people tend to forget about. Or leave out of the conversation of their all-time favorites. A lot of people will put that on the bottom of his list, which I have my own opinions about that. But
I have to ask you, maybe one day we'll do this all over again. That'd be my first question. I'm going to ask you, what is your list? What is your Tarantino list from the beginning
Tarantino list specifically? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That's a long conversation. Yeah, we'll have to wrap that up and put a bow on it, because I am curious, because that movie is my favorite, and nobody can tell me different. Yeah, so I'm ready to fight you on that one.
Okay, all right.
But other than that wraps up for this movie, Psycho.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on, Ricky. I mean, tell the audience where they could find you, what you're putting out, what you're promoting. I know you talked about the podcast.
So yeah, you could be able to find me on on Instagram, Wikipedia 12. I'm going to be opening up. What's up?
I love that name, by the way.
Thank you. And I'm going to be opening up another Instagram, page, or just general social media page for my content platform that I'm looking to produce or promote, called 20 Something Studios. So be on the lookout for 20 Something Studios. I'm chilling in the Hartford County. I'm excited for summer to come along. I'm hoping that things will slowly start going back to normal. I'm waiting to be able to produce more content, be able to get back on this podcast, because I really like this podcast, man. I'm glad that I was able to go on.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, as it's going along, I love it, because I'm actually really watching these movies. I'm getting back into movies. I'm getting excited. I'm seeing people. I'm talking to them. I'm reconnecting with a whole bunch of people. I love it. So I'd love to have you back on. Maybe we could watch a Westworld or do a Tarantino movie. I'm down.
I'm good for anything, man. I'm so open to be able to come back on this show.
Yes. Well, thank you for coming on, guys. You can catch the podcast at AfterThought Pod, POD, on Instagram, or you can email us at AfterThoughtHub, HUB, at gmail.com. If you have any questions, you want to be on the show, you want to make Ricky some sandwiches and jump through his window, you can email the podcast go to our Instagram, check us out. I gotta put more content. I've been slacking lately, you know, it's been hectic all in these streets, but I will get more on there, and I gotta get Ricky's information on there as well. But thank you for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week. See ya. Bye.